Greetings from the Charter School Office. I'm Albert Bertram, the Finance Specialist for the office. This sheet in front of you essentially takes the thick audit and summarizes it into 4 pages. It has a couple other calculations that are created by the office or myself to just help measure things. So it's basically meant to communicate between others and help ask the right questions and that kind of thing. So I'll just go over it and show where everything's derived from on the audit and such, so hopefully this is helpful. Now we know that NHA has the sweep agreement in place. However, this is still available to the public, so we thought it was still beneficial to present to the school board, and so that's why we're doing it. So as we move into the sheet, statement of net position, these are all derived from the audit. I'll show you an example. The total assets on this sheet is 947,542. If we go to the audit, here's the statement of net position right here, and then here's our total assets of 947,542. So you could match up the other numbers if you wanted to. So going back to our sheet, we'll scroll down. We'll see that the ending net position was 55,401, and then 64,534 in the previous year. So it did go down. Again, with the sweep agreement, we're not as concerned with NHA providing the capital assets and that kind of thing. So still important to know what everything means. This is from 2013. This is from June 30th, 2014. As we move down to the balance sheet, we'll see our cash and due from governmental units. And then over here we have fund classifications from the general fund. These are both from the general fund again. Going back to the audit, the balance sheet is 2 pages after the statement of net position. So we'll go 1, 2. Here's our balance sheet. Again, even though there's a school service fund, we're just going to stick with the general fund. So here's our cash and our due from governmental revenue sources. As we move down, we'll see our fund balance classifications of committed and unassigned. And then here's the amounts. So if we go back to our sheet, we'll see the cash and the other due from governmental units over here. Those should match up. Then if we go over here to the fund classifications, we have our unassigned and our committed amounts. And just so we're all on the same page, unassigned fund balances are amounts that are available for any purpose. These amounts are reported only in the general fund. And then committed are amounts constrained to specific purposes by the board to be reported as committed. Amounts cannot be used for any other purpose unless the board takes action to remove or change the constraint. So there are a few other classifications that the Academy doesn't utilize. These definitions are directly in the audit, so if you're ever curious, they're right in the audit. As we move up to this upper right hand corner, this breakdown shows the change in fund balance from beginning of the year, the revenues, expenditures, other financing sources, the net change, and then the ending fund balance. So this is kind of a quick snapshot of what happened during the year. Page 2 has the detail. We'll get to that in a minute. From these numbers up here, there's some calculations below that. General fund divided by revenue just takes the ending general fund, divides it by the total revenues, and then puts it in a percentage. So if that percentage was trending upward, there would obviously be more money available in the general fund. So again, the NHA agreement, we take that in consideration, so we know that, but just letting you all know we're doing these for all our schools. So this one would take the ending general fund less the restricted amount down here if there was, and then do the same calculation essentially. There is no restricted amount, hence it's the same. General fund divided by expenditures. This is a measure that's used by some other people in the industry. However, if you did a big capital outlay during the year or something, it could be skewed. So that's why we do both general revenues divided by revenues and expenditures. Excuse me. So then ending general fund divided by beginning general fund takes the ending divided by the beginning. And then that's a percentage. If that is below 100%, then there is a decrease. If it's above 100%, there is an increase. So that's just a measure to show that change. So as we move down the sheet further, we'll get to the long-term debt, notes payable, capital operating lease, and management area. This is a summary in a table form, essentially, of page 4 of this sheet that provides the written detail from the audit. So with the NHA agreement, there's no notes payable, which would be a state aid note. There's no long-term debt, which is usually a revenue bond or a bond of some sort. So this capital operating lease section is the building lease with NHA. So this is the building lease amount. And then over here would normally be management fee if there was an actual calculated management fee. Since the sweep agreement's in place, we just put NA for non-applicable, and then that's why these errors come up down here. So as we move down, we'll see our square footage. I got this number from the charter contract, so if this is inaccurate, let us know. If something was updated at school level or something, let us know so we can update our records. Revenues per square foot just takes the total revenues, divides it by that square footage. Expenses per square foot, same thing, divides by the square footage. Difference, it's 0 because there's a rounding error, so these don't take the decimals into consideration, so just so you know. Now payment per square foot takes the lease amount up here, the lease payment for the year, and then divides by the square footage. Just another way of measuring things. Now it's not an absolute of any sort, it's just a way to measure it versus not having a way to measure it. So operations and maintenance per square foot takes the operations and maintenance line item down here, and then divides by the square footage to come to an amount as well, just for comparison purposes. And then square footage divided by fall 2013 count takes the fall count and divides it by the corresponding fall count for this fiscal year. So this is ending June 30th, 2014, so that was the fall count for that year. So that's what that is. As we move down into page 2, this is the percent comparison. So it takes, the general fund, it's just comparison. It compares the June 30th, 2014 to June 30th, 2013, then the difference, and then you can see the revenues up here, expenditures. Then as we get down further, you can see the detail. Now some of these have numbers, which are accounting codes, some of them don't. NHA, their order was a little different from the template, so that's why I had to copy and paste some of these in so they don't have them. If you're ever curious what something is, so as an example, we'll look at basic programs, you can take the accounting manual and put it into a Word document. Now if you don't know what any of those are, you come up here, you push find, and then you come over here, you type what you're looking for, make sure you're on results, and then you can actually skim through this document and it'll find things. So if you want to know what basic programs are, here's the code number, and then basic programs are instructional activities including enrichment designed primarily to prepare pupils for activities as citizens, family members, and workers, as contrasted with programs designed to improve or overcome physical, mental, social, and or emotional handicaps, includes pre-kindergarten. So if you're ever curious about what any of those are, you can look them up. I'd be happy to look them up if you have any questions about any of that. So that's just a nice tool. So if you have any questions about any of that, it's good to compare these numbers to this number, and then see the difference and figure out why things changed or whatever. For some of our other schools with NHA, there's the sweep agreements in place again. So as we come down here, we have our original budget, final budget, actual. These are directly from the audit as well. Then this just calculates the difference, and then this just calculates the percent change between the actual and the final. So this little comment here is a reminder. I don't think it shows up on your sheet, but it's a reminder for myself and others in the office that the original budget is due July 1. So sometimes there's great discrepancies between the original and final budget because of the time difference, July 1, and then the count is in the fall, and then the budget vastly changes based on that fall count. So it's important to remember that when we look at this comparison. So moving down here, this takes the total instruction costs and then divides it by total revenues. So I'll come up here for a moment. So total instruction divided by total revenues. So that just puts that in a percentage form and then compares it from year to year. So it's just a way to measure a trend. If there's a lot of variables in those numbers, but it's good to see a trend to see if to ask the right questions. So then revenues divided by fall 2013 takes the total revenues and divides it by that fall count, and then the expenditures divided by that fall count, and then the difference between the two. And this is again just for June 30, 2014. So as we move to the third page, this is the enrollment data. So these numbers are derived from CEPI, which I'll show you what CEPI is. Let me go here. CEPI is the Center for Educational Performance and Information. It's a state website. If you come down to My School Data, you can fill in the search options, then you can come here, and then here's where all the data is. So there's the data goes back to 91, 92. So you could open up these big Excel spreadsheets and find the data. I've done that for you and summarized it here. So this last number, however, is not from CEPI. It's the DS4061, and that's the unaudited number I get through Epicenter. So when I update the numbers with the audited numbers, this number might slightly change. So if you notice that from year to year, that might be why. That will be why. So here is these numbers over here is just a calculation that shows the percent change from one count to the next. So it's just kind of a trend thing for people who like numbers. For those who like the visual display, we have a graph down here which shows the trends. So this is a good measure to look at the trending enrollment. And a lot of our schools do drop enrollment from fall to spring, just so you know, so that's not a common thing with your school. A lot of schools do that. So as we move down to this section, this is the free and reduced lunch counts. Again, these are from CEPI. It's a different search area than the one I just showed you, but it's in the same general location. And then as we come over here, we have our free and reduced lunch count percentages. So this takes the free and reduced lunch count and then makes it a percentage of the total fall count. So that's what that is. So there's the percentages, and then down here we have the trends in the free and reduced lunch count. So as we move to page 4, this is the informational piece. I won't read all this, but this stuff is directly from the audit, and then these page numbers are the references to the audit. So this stuff anyone could go look up and then read this stuff. So it's important for the board to know what's in the audit. So hopefully this is not new information, but it is good information to know. So here's the operating lease information. Here's the management agreement information, how it's stated in the audit. Page 12. And then there's no findings, which is good. And then here's just a couple more notes. The charter expires in 2020. So it's good to know that. And then there were some items that had the actual over the budgeted amount, which is a reference to page 14. So it's important for the board to always budget everything, and then the actual shouldn't exceed that amount. So if we went back to the accounting manual, it's right here. Okay. An administrative officer of the school district or PSA shall not incur an expenditure against an appropriation account in excess of the amount authorized by the Board of Education. The administrative officer or an employee of the school district shall not apply or divert money of the school district for purposes inconsistent with those specified in the appropriations of the local school board. So I'll go back to the audit now, and this is the page 14 of the audit. It just shows the budget and the actual. There's not a large overage, but I thought it was worth noting as it was specifically stated in the audit. So during the year, the Academy incurred certain expenditures in the general fund which were in excess of the amounts budgeted. So it's just important to bring that to your attention, and I'll go back to our review sheet. So again, I didn't list it all out here, but it's on page 14 of the audit. So if there's any questions, feel free to contact me. My email is albertb@bmcc.edu. I hope you got some value out of this, and thanks for all you do for the kids in Michigan. Bye.